Let's go further afield, and explosions have hit the bridge linking Russia to occupied Crimea. It's a major development in the ongoing war in Ukraine. The Kerch bridge, which opened in 2018 following Russia's annexation of Crimea, is a major supply route for Russian forces in the south of Ukraine. It's now been closed after sustaining major damage. For more, we go to SABC correspondent Trent Murray in Kyiv. Good evening to you and welcome. What's the latest with regards to who's responsible, Trent?
Well, we haven't had any official claim of responsibility yet here in Ukraine from either President Zelensky's office or the Ministry for Defense, but we have seen some very high-profile voices within the Ukrainian government celebrating the fact that this bridge was engulfed in flames and these explosions earlier today. Of course, that bridge really was seen as a symbol of Russian oppression after they annexed that region of Crimea all the way back in 2014. And so for a lot of people here in the Ukrainian capital, seeing it be hit with such destruction has been cause for celebration. But we've not actually had an official claim of responsibility. What I will say is that Mikhailo Podolyak, who is a senior advisor to President Zelensky, released a statement earlier today saying that this is just the beginning and that everything occupied by Russia must be expelled. But then he subsequently released another statement suggesting Russia may in fact be behind this blast, effectively suggesting it could be part of a power play in Moscow between the intelligence agency and the military to try and gain the upper hand in the Kremlin. Now, we haven't seen any evidence of that, but I think it is a very real example of, I suppose, the psychological warfare going on here as well. This will be a major psychological blow to the Russians. This bridge really was seen as a marquee project of theirs when they opened, 17 kilometres long, the longest bridge in Europe, very expensive. But what has been a blow for Russia certainly, I think, has been a morale boost for Ukraine.
What is the veracity of reports, Trent? I understand that the story is moving and it might be very hard to independently, corroborate or confirm some of the reports that we are getting. But we are hearing that, Russian intelligence has already begun to arrest members of the military in Moscow. How much truth is there to that from where you're standing?
Yeah, that's right. Now, those reports have actually been released in the past hour or so by Ukrainian intelligence. Now, they say that Russian media are not reporting on this and that senior intelligence officials in Moscow are now going around and arresting members of the military. Look, it is very, very hard to verify those reports. From what I understand, traffic is operating relatively normally in central Moscow right now, according to GPS, and this sort of thought that maybe there was some sort of lockdown in Moscow. I don't think that can be verified, but right now, but clearly something potentially is afoot. I think what we always have to remember in a lot of this, of course, there is a major battle going on between Ukraine and Russia, both physically on the battlefield, but very often in the information sphere as well. Often claims and counterclaims. It can be very hard to move through that fog of war. But I think what we can absolutely say for certain is that this bridge exploding will have been a huge sign of humiliation for Russia. And I do believe that there will be people within the Russian government which will be held to account over this, because it will be seen as a major security failure.
And that's why I think it's important to reanimate for our viewers, Trent, the strategic importance of Crimea in this war.
Huge importance. This is a region that is part of Ukrainian territory. It was annexed by Russia back in 2014. Subsequently, about 2 million Russians were moved into that region. It's almost a small island at the bottom of the country. It is connected to the mainland, but it is largely surrounded by sea, which is why that bridge was of just such strategic importance. It crosses the ocean from mainland Russia to that region. Important for the people that live there, important for the local economy, but of late, very important to the military, because that is how Russia has been sending a lot of its troops, its armour, its weapons, its fuel to the front line in the south of Ukraine, where, of course, major counter-offensives are now underway. Ukraine really putting their foot on the gas, if you will, to push hard against the Russians that are occupying the area of Kherson. Now, if that supply route has been cut to Kherson to the Russians because of this bridge blast, and we do believe the bridge has sustained some pretty major damage, that will make it even harder for Moscow to hold that area now, because they won't be able to supply their troops as quickly and as easily as they were before. It will put a lot of pressure on the Russian side of things, and I suspect will really put the wind in the sails of the Ukrainians, who are pushing hard to regain that territory back.
Major psychological and logistical impact there. Just a quick word, Trent, if you will, on casualties.
Well, the Russian side is saying from this blast that 3 people were killed. Now, we do know that the bridge basically consisted of 2 big lanes for road traffic going each way, and then on the other part of it was a railway line. Now, when that explosion occurred, the train that was there at the time, full of fuel and chemicals, also exploded. We don't know necessarily who the deaths were per se, but we obviously know that the train was there, so we believe it may have been someone driving the train. Also, of course, cars and trucks on the road at the time. I suspect we'll get more information because Russia says they have launched a criminal investigation into this, and already investigators have been at the scene today. So plenty more to see, I think, in this story, and the ramifications of it could last for some days now.
Trent, be safe where you are. Thank you very much. SABC News reporter Trent Murray, live for us in Kyiv, bringing us the very latest on these explosions on this bridge linking Russia to occupied Crimea.